Well, you ask about the great thinkers in the tradition of natural law theorizing. We would begin, certainly, with the ancient Greek philosophers, with Plato and particularly Aristotle. They are interested in knowing whether there is a moral law by reference to which the human law, the positive law, the law of the polis, can be evaluated. Are there moral standards by reference to which we can design our laws in our polity, in our polis, so that the laws will be morally good, not morally bad? They'll be just rather than unjust. So Plato's interested in that question. He explores it in significant ways in his dialogues. Aristotle is interested in that question, and some of his treatises address it very extensively and directly, more directly than Plato did. The Roman jurists also play an important role in the history of natural law thinking. They are thinking about the human law and how the human law can be rectified, made right, made rightly, made uprightly. Here I would say the greatest of them, although there are many important ones, but the greatest of them is Cicero. He explicitly explores the idea of natural law, the law that we can know by our reason, that enables us to guide our lives in a way that conduces to our flourishing, and organize our communities, including the laws of our communities, in ways that are just rather than unjust. In the medieval period, you have a great flowering of natural law thinking. The greatest figure of that era is certainly St. Thomas Aquinas, who works out very formally a doctrine of natural law. We find it in the part of his great work called the Summa Theologia, a part that we have designated the Treatise on Law. And here he talks about the moral law, the human law, the relationship of the moral law to the human law. He explores the question, how do we know the tenets of natural law? How do we grasp the first principles of natural law? How do we reason about morality? How are we able to understand the difference between right and wrong? And his thought profoundly influences the Christian tradition going forward. The great reformers, Calvin and Luther, have doctrines of natural law, not as comprehensively worked out as Aquinas's. And in some ways, they are more limited, and they reject certain aspects of Aquinas's thinking. They place a much greater emphasis than Aquinas did on original sin and on the darkening of the intellect. And that continues, I think, in some ways to be a difference between some Reformation, not all Reformation Protestants, and Catholics. Catholics tend toward Aquinas' view of these things. Reformation Christians tend more toward the views of Luther and Calvin. But it's wrong to suppose or say, as some people do, that Luther and Calvin reject natural law, or that the other great reformers reject natural law. They don't. They have ideas about natural law. They have, in a certain sense, doctrines of natural law, although they're different from Aquinas's, and in some ways quite radically different from those of the Greeks and the Romans.